Chiefs Kingdom, welcome into a brand new episode of the Chiefs Report presented by Prize Picks. Guys, sign up for Prize Picks with code HMA and get $50 in lineups instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. We're going to be going back through the Kansas City Chiefs 2026 schedule today. It was revealed yesterday. We had our schedule reveal video come out, the QV Chiefs, which was pretty damn funny. If you haven't checked it out on the Chiefs official social channels, absolutely worth a look. But if you missed that, if you missed the Kansas City Chiefs schedule reveal, here it is for you in all its glory. Week by week, before we get into predicting the outcomes of this thing, we're on prime time for both of our openers. Week 1 against the Denver Broncos and Week 2 against the Indianapolis Colts. Back-to-back primetime slottings on Monday and Sunday Night Football, respectively. Week 3 and Week 4, we're going to see the Dolphins and the Raiders at their places. Week 5, we get a very early bye. Week 6, another divisional matchup against the Chargers. 3 divisional matchups in the first 6 weeks, and we'll make it 4 with our Week 8 matchup against the Denver Broncos. But before we get to that, we got to go play on Sunday Night Football against the Super Bowl champs. Moving on to the back half of the schedule, we've got Week 9 against the New York Jets, Week 10 against the Atlanta Falcons, and Week 11 against the Arizona Cardinals. Before we roll into 2 more primetime slots, Week 12 on Thanksgiving against the rival Buffalo Bills, and Week 13 at the Los Angeles Rams. Close out that road trip, with a Week 14 trip to go see Cincinnati, a Week 15 game against the New England Patriots back at our place, another primetime outing on Monday Night Football. Week 16, we'll see the San Francisco 49ers. Week 17, we will be on the road at the Chargers, and Week 18, we close out our schedule and our divisional series against the Raiders in that one. So let me know, guys, before I do it, I want to hear from you. Don't make me be the only person predicting the Kansas City Chiefs 2026 record today. Don't leave me dancing all by myself. Predict the record for me in the comments. Play along with us and go week by week. Build out your prediction and then leave it for me in the comments. I will be responding as always. But let's jump right into this thing. Without further ado, let's get to Week 1 against the Denver Broncos. In this one, guys, I've talked about it over and over again as a tone setter game for Kansas City. And I think we go out at home, and we do just that. We start 1-0 with the win over the Denver Broncos. I know I have in Denver here. This one is actually in Kansas City. That is my bad on that one. I think I was just all those Denver fans saying that this game was going to be in Denver, they got to me when I was putting this show together, and I accidentally said that. But I do think we set the tone here. Like we talked about, the AFC West went to Denver last season. They had a really good year at 14-3. We got to remind them that we have not gone anywhere, though, by beating them in Week 1. And then we go to Week 2. Our second back-to-back primetime date, this one with Daniel Jones and his Indianapolis Colts, Indiana Jones as they call him these days. But guys, this to me, unlike the Denver Broncos, this does not feel like as formidable of a matchup. I think on paper, maybe it does. Obviously, Indianapolis was really solid last season when Daniel Jones played. Jonathan Taylor's always a threat for that team, and I think their defense is going to take a step forward this year. But I do think they are due for offensive regression. We saw Daniel Jones play some really bad football towards the end of the year before he got hurt. Really rough game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that's more of the guy that we're going to see in 2026. Don't think he can sustain that level of play we saw early on. And we get to 2-0 after the Monday Night Football game. Week 3, we're on the road for our road opener out in Miami. Early season game against the Dolphins. And I think this is another easy win. Maybe the Colts game, not quite as easy as this one, but this rebuilding Dolphins team, they might be one of the easiest wins for anybody in the NFL this season. One of the weakest teams in the NFL this season. No disrespect to Nick Roloff and our Dolphins channel over there, but I think it's going to be a rough season in Miami Gardens. Week 4, we are on the road against the Las Vegas Raiders, divisional matchup in this one. And I think it's another easy win. I think getting this team early on is advantageous to us. I do think they're set to get better throughout the year. I like a lot of what they did in this offseason as far as long-term improvement goes. If I'm going to put my Chiefs bias aside and just evaluate what they were able to do, I think they improved notably. But they're still very young. There's still a lot of moving parts. I don't think they can beat us. I don't think they can go 4 quarters with us this season. We get to 4-0 after beating Vegas, and we're going to continue to roll through the rest of the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, guys, in just 1 minute. But before we do that, I've got to give a shout out to one of the sponsors of today's video, guys, and that is America's #1 sports picks app, our friends over at Prize Picks. Guys, I love playing with Prize Picks. It just makes watching sports so much more exciting than it already is. I've really been having so much fun playing Prize Picks during the NBA playoffs this season, especially. And I've got my lineup ready to go for tonight's action. We're going with the more on James Harden's points. I feel like he's just been such a huge part of the Cavs' success lately, really turning around his own personal playoff narrative where success has not been the highest for him. Anthony Edwards, we're going with the less on him, though. And it's nothing against him personally. He's a great player, but the Spurs are doing everything they can to prevent him from taking over games, defending him the way you have to, double teams when necessary. I don't think he gets to more than 26.5 points tonight. Stephon Castle, though, we're going with the more on his points. He's been a huge part of the success for the Spurs alongside Victor Wembanyama, who we are also going with the more on who can stop that guy from crashing the glass. So you guys can tail me on this lineup. You can fade me on this lineup. Whatever you do, just play alongside all of us here at Chat Sports and get $50 when you play your first $5 entry with code HMA on Prize Picks. The link is also available in the comments and the description of today's video. As always, thank you to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Let's get back to our record prediction for the Kansas City Chiefs as we continue to roll through this schedule. We have now arrived at our Week 5 bye week. We are in the bye. So for Kansas City at this point, and this is something we talked about yesterday when we did our initial schedule reveal, when we talked about the schedule in its entirety, this is not something I'm a fan of at all. I think having a Week 5 bye is pretty freaking annoying, to be completely honest with you. Because for the Chiefs in 2026, what is the goal? The goal is not just to be good in the regular season, to have a solid regular season. The goal is to get back to the playoffs and be extremely competitive in them, hopefully resulting in a Super Bowl win. And when you want to make deep playoff runs, early bye weeks are not your friend. You want that rest later on in the season. But the one thing that it does help you do is maybe get a win against the Chargers. Maybe we jump to 5-0 here with a little bit of extra rest against Justin Herbert and co. We get them at our place. They got to get off some travel here. We've been resting for a full week. I think this ends up being another win for your Kansas City Chiefs in Week 5. But let's roll straight on to Week 7. One of the toughest games on this Kansas City Chiefs schedule, in my opinion, for the whole season. On the road, at the Super Bowl champs, at Lumen Field in Seattle. And I can't lie, this is the first loss in our record prediction. We're going to drop to 5-1 here. On the road at Lumen Field, man, it's not that Kansas City is not capable of winning this game. They absolutely are. If they play incredible football, they can beat the Seahawks. But it's hard to predict that they're going to. I think I would be a little too biased if I was going to do that. Week 8, though, we are back against the Denver Broncos. This one is actually on the road. I think we flipped it here. Week 8, though, we're going to, I think, drop this one. Again, just like with Seattle, I would be a little too biased if I was going to tell you guys we're going to sweep the Denver Broncos, who are coming off a 14-3 season where they went to the AFC Championship. I think predicting a split here is absolutely fair. I think that's, again, this team's going to be good. Coming back this season, they haven't gotten noticeably worse. They brought back pretty much everybody. I think we've gotten much better, and obviously we're much healthier. So I do think we split the series with Denver this season. But again, I just can't predict a sweep there for you. But I could definitely predict a big-time win in Week 9 against these New York Jets, guys. At the end of the day, this is another game on this schedule, and we're going to talk about them more in just a minute here once we roll through the 4 that I really want to categorize together. But this is a game that you absolutely have to have. The Jets are so far from competing with you. Even in last year's incredible down year from Kansas City that nobody saw coming, what'd you do? You doubled New York's win total. 6 wins, 3 wins. This team is so far from being at your level. I honestly think they even got worse last season. That's the reality of it for these New York Jets. They're not going to be a good football team. You've got to show that you are much, much better in Week 9. No letdown game here. But I do think we may get one in Week 10. On the road in Atlanta, this one feels like a red flag game to me, guys. This Atlanta Falcons team proved at the end of last season that they're a lot better than their record showed. They beat the Rams at the end of the year. They won 3 straight games to close out their season. And I think that they beat us here. Go into their place. This feels like an opportunity for a letdown game for the Kansas City Chiefs. It feels like every NFL team has at least one letdown game every year where they lose to a team that maybe on paper they're significantly better than. I think this feels like that one for your Kansas City Chiefs. But in Week 11, they get right again with another rebuilding opponent. This one, the Arizona Cardinals, and I think they beat them here. And I think they beat them badly. This team is a disaster, guys. I'm not going to mince words. They're not good. They got worse last offseason, letting Kyler go. I think Kyler was part of the problem to some degree, but I just think there is core issues in Arizona that are not going to be solved in one offseason, that are not going to be solved by a new coaching hire. But that brings together the 4 games that I mentioned earlier. I want to categorize together 4 opportunities in your first 10 games at teams that I think you have to call works in progress, at teams that you could say are absolutely rebuilding right now. The Miami Dolphins, the Raiders, the Jets, the Cardinals. All 4 of these are, in my opinion, must-win matchups for the Kansas City Chiefs. You've got to bring these ones home, in my opinion. It absolutely has to happen because, as we're about to get into, the difficulty of this schedule is about to take a massive, massive leap. And we are going to talk about that in just one second. But before we do, I've got to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, and that's SeatGeek, guys. Today's show is made possible by SeatGeek, guys, the best place to get all your tickets, especially now that we finally have the Kansas City Chiefs 2026 schedule. Guys, we've been so excited for this thing to come out for the last few months. We've been really looking forward to it, and now it's time to get our tickets and get out to some Chiefs games. Guys, me personally, I've really got my eyes on the Monday Night Football opener against the Broncos. I cannot wait to get out to this one with the fiance. We're going to talk about it on today's show, but me and my fiance are super excited to head out there thanks to SeatGeek. We're going to save some money in the process, and it's such an awesome buying experience because we can even see our view from our seats that we're looking at picking, know exactly what it's going to look like once we get there. But whether it's a Chiefs game with my family or a concert with my fiance, SeatGeek always has my back because each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10. So I know if I'm getting a good deal. Just look for the green dots. Green means good, my friends. Red means bad. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use code CHAT10 for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. That's 10% off any tickets with promo code CHAT10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring today's show. All right, thank you to SeatGeek for sponsoring today's video. Week 12, we are back in action on Thanksgiving against the Buffalo Bills. On the road in this one in Buffalo. And I hate to say it, guys. It pains me to say this, but I do think Buffalo gets the win here. I think we dropped to 7-4 after this one. They've held the regular season edge over us over the last couple seasons. Excuse me. I think that will continue to be the case in this one on Thursday Night Football. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to get them when it matters most. If that's any consolation, I think we're going to get them when it matters most, even if that's not on national television on Thanksgiving Day. Week 13, we follow with another incredibly difficult matchup. This one against the Rams, 2 back-to-back Thursday Night Football appearances, technically. One of those being Thanksgiving Thursday Night Football, so Thursday Night Football in quotation marks, I guess. But I think this is going to be the first time in the season that we drop 2 games in a row, that we lose 2 back-to-back, dropping to the Buffalo Bills and then dropping to the Los Angeles Rams. 2 games back-to-back, the Kansas City Chiefs are going to fall in my opinion. Again, this Rams team at their place, this is going to be a tough matchup in early December. but we stop the skid in week 14. I think that's where we start to get right. Going on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals, I think we get the win in this one. This is where you start to prove, like, hey, we lost to Buffalo and we lost to LA, but we can hang tough with the best of the best in the NFL, with a Bengals team that I feel like is set for a major resurgence this year alongside us. I think both of these teams are going to be much better than they were last year. But I'm not going to lie to you guys, I don't really feel that way about the next team on our schedule, the New England Patriots. We get these guys on Monday Night Football, and in a lot of ways right now, for me, they feel like regression candidates. In my opinion, I think we can beat the New England Patriots, who are coming off of a season which was, I'm not going to say all their success was because of the schedule, but a lot of the success that that team had came against, for lack of a better word, cupcake opponents. And we are not a cupcake opponent. I think they're going to face a much more difficult, or I know they're going to face a much more difficult schedule this year. And I think we hand them a loss here to get to 9-5. But next up is another incredibly difficult game. This stretch of the schedule, guys, is unbelievable. There's one more after this one, but it is a truly unbelievably difficult stretch of the schedule. Week 16, we get the Niners at home, another team that just year in and year out is competitive under Kyle Shanahan. No matter what comes up for them, no matter what's thrown in their path injury-wise, Shanahan's going to have that team at worst competitive, at worst solid. They're going to be in the conversation, and I think they get the win here. We drop to 9-6. Making the final 2 weeks of our schedule incredibly important games. On the road in Los Angeles. This one, you're going to have to sweep the series against the Chargers. And I think we're capable of doing that. I think we are capable of winning both of our games against the Chargers this year, of going back to SoFi Stadium. This will be the second time we play at SoFi Stadium this season. And I think we can get the win over Justin Herbert and co here. But with the playoff race being this tight at 9-6, if you fall to 9-7, there's a serious chance that even a win against the Raiders in Week 18 is not good enough to put you in the playoffs. 11-6, that feels like it's good enough to get in. 10-7, maybe not so. And again, that's going to make this Week 18 matchup critical against a Raiders team that right now feels hapless, that right now does not feel like a major threat, but could become one as this year goes on. Again, remember, we talked about the steps that they took this offseason to get better, most notably drafting Fernando Mendoza, but I also really like the hire of Clint Kubiak. I feel like that's a coach that sets this team up for growth. I'm not going to lie to you guys and just tell you that all of our divisional opponents are going to suck or that they're going to get worse. I'd be stupid at the end of the day. We got to live in reality, and the reality of it is the Raiders took steps to become a better football team in 2026, and by Week 18, even if they're not in playoff contention, they might be a real threat. And you're going to need your starters to rock for you in Week 18 if you are 10-6 to get a win and get to 11-6. And again, that goes back to the rest dynamic that we talked about. You don't have that bye late in the season to get you that extra rest. And if your guys aren't off in Week 18, that's adding more to the equation. There's no way to get that kind of phony bye week in there by resting your starters. But all in, I'm predicting that the Kansas City Chiefs will finish a difficult schedule with an 11-6 record. Perfectly good enough to get them back into the playoffs where they absolutely belong. I think Patrick Mahomes is healthy for the entire season. That's going to be a huge part of this team's success, absolutely. But even if they do have to start Justin Fields early on, I think the early part of this schedule being easily the weakest portion plays favorably to that potentially being the case, even though I think the odds of that are like less than 10%. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. But that's going to round it out for today's episode of the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. And as always, let's go Kansas City Chiefs.